Round one. Player one. Ready. Player two. Ready. Fight.
Did you catch those F1 25 driver rankings?
I saw them come across my screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're strange.
Strange is putting it lightly.
There's a few anomalies.
There's more than a few anomalies. Do you tend to you tend to play these games quite regularly? Yeah.
Yeah. More so used to.
It's not your
But
go-to.
I
racing
understand.
Game.
No, not these days.
No.
I've been playing them since the 2010 version, but
2010. Oh, jeez,
Yeah.
weird flex.
yeah,
But,
yeah, it's been a while. But since EA bought them and they've gone real funny with these ratings systems, less so.
Well, it kind of shows that they don't understand either someone's not watching the sport close enough, or they don't understand the field well enough to
Yeah.
get some of these glaringly wrong. You know, there's a few drivers that definitely got shafted.
I just don't think you can rank drivers sort of like this.
I think
it
you
just
can.
Seems off.
No, I think you can. I think you 100% can
Oh,
rank drivers
Okay, if you know what you're doing, you can.
if you know what you're
But
doing. That's
the
my point.
thing. The categories are off. Like, there's just a fair bit that doesn't seem quite
Is
right.
anyone making these games actually paying attention to the field? Like, I get these things take time. You got to develop them. They're basing it off maybe last year's stats, but
Yeah, I assume so.
but the game's going to come out mid-year. We're already 6 races in, and the championship picture is, becoming kind of clear who's in contention and who's not.
Yeah.
Who's performing and who's not. And EA's driver rating system certainly doesn't represent where the field is today.
Not even close.
They've missed a few marks there. So
And you just wonder. You'd think they'd be able to update it.
Mm.
or
Well, yeah,
something
that's what I
before the
mean.
release. You think this would be a pretty easy thing to overhaul
Mm.
based on the start of the season? I mean, it is the 25 season they're working off.
Yeah.
So it's odd.
So who do you think has gotten shafted the worst? Looking at the rankings,
Well, I think it's pretty clearly Oscar.
do you think he's shafted the worst?
Yeah. I think throwing him in as effectively what they're saying is the 8th best driver.
Yeah, who's
that?
currently leading the championship?
Yeah.
That is a issue.
Yeah.
they have.
It's doesn't make sense, does it?
I don't know. I can't help but feel that Antonelli is the most shafted. I mean, second last on their rating system.
Yeah.
And I get, rookie, so he's going to take a hit on points just for being a rookie.
But where would you place him? Just second last, like 5th last, top of the rookie class.
Look, absolute worst case scenario. If they had him there on announcement, I could live with that.
Yeah.
There is some sort of reasoning behind that, and he clearly is the best of all the rookies. So to
I mean,
have
he's
him,
only one off that position.
yeah. So to have him, but even still, to have him under Doohan, Bortoletto,
Yeah.
Behrman,
Yeah.
it
is
that Lawson.
Yeah.
That's kind of
Yeah.
a laugh.
Yeah.
But then, I think we're talking about his performance in these first 6 races of the season. He's outperformed Stroll. He's outperformed Hulkenberg. He's outperformed Ocon,
Yeah.
Gasly, Alonso.
Yeah.
Sainz.
Pretty much anyone besides Albon. I'd say he's
Yeah.
he's outperformed you.
So
I don't know if you just listed him, but you
Yeah.
could leapfrog him. I mean, it's easy to say because he's probably 6th in the championship, but you could pretty much comfortably leapfrog him there. you know.
yeah. So I think absolute worst case scenario, you're putting him in, first out of the rookie class.
Yeah.
But I actually think he deserves to be in the top 10.
That's the thing, yeah. You might go to exclude the car advantage, but he probably still is a top 10 driver, which is amazing
but
to say.
these aren't taking car advantages.
They're not,
into
and that's what I'm saying.
consideration.
Yeah,
So-
exactly right. That's what I'm saying. Like, he's 6th in the championship, but he does have a car advantage over a lot of them. But I think even if you eliminate that, I think he's proved himself to almost be a top 10 driver. I mean, they've got
Oh, yeah?
Russell. They've got Russell 4th, which is whack. But
Well, hang on. Where would you put Russell then? If you don't think he's
not
4th?
far off 4th.
Right.
I put him.
So lower is what
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
saying.
low, absolutely.
Yeah.
I put him below Lewis.
Yeah.
Piastri, obviously.
Yeah.
He'd probably be ranking, 6th to 8th, And Kimi's proved to be right there with George. So I think that just proves the theory that he might be closer to that 10th spot,
Yeah. Okay.
Kimi.
I don't know. I think 4th is where George should be, to be honest.
Look, he's had a good year this year, but we've also prefaced, this is probably based off last year's stats.
Yeah, but this is a rating system for the current season, not for last season. It's not.
No, exactly.
It's not F124.
No.
So
But then explain why Oscar's so low.
well, that's you can't can't explain it. So I think they need to adjust and adapt to where the season is at now, and they've still got couple months, just under 2 months before the launch. I think maybe it might even be 1 month. So we've got a good pool of races that you can kind of, I think, accurately see what driver sits where.
Yeah. Well, would you put George ahead of Lewis?
Yeah, 100%.
You think George is better than Lewis?
Well, he is. I mean, just look at the championship standings first of all.
Okay, but again, you're putting car into that.
No, because even last year, they were very neck and neck with each other, right?
Yeah.
And Lewis has kind of been on a downwards trend for quite a few years, whereas Russell's been on an upwards trend.
Naturally. So it sounds to me like you're pretty happy with the standings, actually.
That's in how they are.
You think there's less anomalies than I think?
No, I think there is actually quite a few anomalies. I think they've got it more wrong than they have it right. I think Max Verstappen definitely is number one. There's no disputing that.
Yeah.
Lando number 2 was a hilarious joke. I mean, EA British? Are they a British company?
Probably, hey. It looks that way.
Did they know something that no one else knew at the beginning of the year and not get the memo? So
yeah,
to have him listed as the second best driver on the whole grid is just hilarious because, yes, he may finish second in the championship last year, but in terms of, again, his performance this season, where he's at with the teammate battle, he's not winning that one.
Even his deficiencies that we saw last year in crunch time, the racecraft stuff, and his racecraft is pretty low, which is pretty bang on. Like, it's lower than Oscar, who's many years his junior in the sport.
Yep.
But he does seem too high. Like an overall 91, which sounds good for a driver of his caliber. I don't think that's right.
No, so obviously we both agree that Piastri would be ahead of Lando on that one. I would almost argue. I mean, they've got Lando and Charles basically tied second. They're both on 91 overall ratings.
Yeah,
so I think that is fair. But I would almost even. I think looking at that, then George makes sense as fourth, but I think they get Carlos wrong in fifth. Like, Carlos is way too high. They got Carlos ahead of Lewis, which is massively disrespectful.
Yeah.
Even more funny when you think about
specifically quite higher.
Yeah,
quite a lot higher than Lewis.
Even when you think about how this season has gone for both drivers, and they're both not having a great time in their seats this year.
Yeah.
But it's even more hilarious to think that Ferrari booted out Carlos for Hamilton, and paid him about triple.
Yeah. For their troubles. Yeah.
For their troubles, and Carlos is ranked above Lewis.
It is strange, and it's not even like he's young and upcoming like a Kimi Antonelli or like a Piastri.
No, well, he's the fourth oldest driver on the grid.
Yeah, he's been around for a while now, so he's hit the peak.
Yeah.
But I think straight away there was a big one I saw. I think it was Lando having 94 pace over Charles having 90 pace.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem right. Like, I could be proven wrong, but I'd be pretty confident to say Charles has more pole positions.
Oh, yeah, I think he does.
And their time in the sport
I think you're right.
is, I think it was 1 year off. I think it was Norris was 17 and Charles was 18.
And they came in at the same time?
That's 2017, 2018 is what I mean. So they're 1 year apart.
Yeah.
So Charles has actually had less time in the sport, and I feel as though he's ranked up more poles. And I think Lando only really started accumulating some maybe last year. So that doesn't seem right, especially a 4-point swing.
Yeah,
doesn't seem right to me. Awareness, Lando's right down, which sort of makes sense. And his racecraft, we've seen can't hold the lead off the line.
Yeah,
struggles mightily under pressure.
Yeah,
generally. So I think Lando's,
it's a bit out of
quite
whack.
a few positions too high.
Yeah, I'd agree. So then you've got Lewis in 6th, which probably is right. I'm happy with that. Fernando in 7th is hilarious.
His experience is really,
He's carrying him there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like his racecraft, to be fair, probably should be pretty high.
Mhm.
Like he's crafty. Pace, yeah, should be down, but it's down with Hamilton, which again, Hamilton won 2 races last year. He qualified where he pretty well, qualified quite highly at times. And yeah, so Fernando having equal pace as Lewis,
Mhm.
to me,
Doesn't make
is
sense either.
odd.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Two very different cars, even if you're talking about the Mercedes against the Aston Martin, or
Yeah.
if you're talking about the Ferrari against them. So
yeah,
either way, they lose out both times.
yeah. But I think it's, yeah. I mean, Fernando got a 99. It's pretty funny. Like, what do you have to do to get to 100
Mhm.
is the biggest question.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
Or is that
how
off the
does he
cards?
not have 100?
Yeah,
I mean, he holds the record for the most GPs raced, doesn't he?
yeah,
Or
I
is-
believe so. Yeah, he's in the 400
So
club.
how can he not be 100?
Yeah.
There's no driver that's raced
Yeah.
more than him.
Exactly.
Literally, no one has more F1 experience than him.
I mean, it means it's impossible to get a 100 overall ranking.
Yeah.
You're never going to be that experienced whilst also having the best racecraft, best awareness, best pace. You know what I mean?
hmm
So Max being 95 is pretty. I'd love to know what the highest they've had since introducing this scheme.
Well, you'd have to assume, Red Bull's perfect season or near perfect season.
Yeah.
What did they rank him after that fact?
Yeah.
99.
Yeah. Well, I think his awareness is still the thing that lets him down.
Yeah.
His run-ins he's had in his career
Mm.
and year to year.
So moving down the list before we get into some of the spaghetti and meatballs of it, Oscar being 8th is absolutely disrespectful. I think it kind of just shows more than anything, nobody, maybe outside of us,
Yeah.
and probably the Australian public to some degree, had any faith in Oscar and his ability. Like everyone kind of was always focused on Lando and lowballed Oscar.
Yeah.
And we've mentioned it many times. He's multiple race winner. He's just won back to back to back as where we stand right now today.
Yeah.
But not only that, he's been consistently collecting points as well. Even when he's had bad races, they haven't been terribly bad races.
No.
He hasn't had a DNF. He's continuously
He scored points. Yep.
kept
most of
the
race.
kept the points ticking over. So very just like it just makes no sense. Even in the context, if you're thinking about his last year, where he was the 3rd best driver on the grid, as far as the championship goes,
Mhm.
they've still got him rated in 8th. Behind someone like Alonso, it just
Yeah.
makes absolutely no sense.
It doesn't. Well, I checked the sports, the sports bet tab today.
Mhm.
Checked up on Formula One.
Yep.
Who do you think is the favourite to win the championship?
As of right now, like the odds,
As of right now, yeah,
well, obviously it's going to be Piastri.
it is. He's
Yeah.
only at $1.78.
Is that $1.78 as
Yeah.
well?
Lando's 265, and then drops off from there.
Yeah, okay.
Quite a margin there.
So
Um,
they're actually still pretty even on odds.
Pretty even. I think that's quite a gap.
Get that,
I mean,
get that around your head, even on odds.
yeah.
But
What are you, wordsmith?
but $1.70
That's pretty low,
shows, yeah.
but it gets better. So going to the Imola, they're actually $2.35 a piece. So they're actually even odds, which I think is
Right.
sort of fair enough. It's kind of. I mean, Oscar's on a 3-race winning streak. So whether they see that as the loss is going to come sooner than later,
Yeah.
or I'd actually go the other way and say, well, he's rolling. That boy's rolling.
Yeah,
So
well,
I'm surprised he's not a favourite.
we haven't looked at the results of Imola last year, and I can't remember off the top of my head. But you have
I
to
feel
take
like
into-
that almost doesn't matter based on how Oscar's.
No, but we
turn
know how
things
these
over.
odds work.
Yeah.
They'll look at how they performed at the track last year, and I feel like
Was last year?
this was Miami was the turning point for Lando. So I feel like Lando was starting to find some form at this point.
Yeah. Was last year the year Imola got flooded out, or was that the year before?
Could honestly, I
I
can't
don't
even
know.
remember last week.
Great track.
So,
though. Great track though. So I'm looking forward to it.
yeah.
So the other thing I had, McLaren are $1.01 favourites to win the constructors. So
What, $1
$1.01.
Yeah.
So they're
There's no point even.
essentially, yeah, exactly. Good luck putting a bet on that.
Yeah.
So to driver to win 10 plus races this season.
Oh,
This is where it gets interesting.
yeah.
So who do you think's favourite?
Well, again, it has to
Oscar,
be
yeah.
it has to be Piastri.
$1.51.
Wow, $1.51 for 10 races.
Lando brings it up
That
as the
is
second
nuts.
most likely driver to do it.
Yeah.
$4.
$4, yeah.
$4. There's still 18 races left.
Mm.
18 races. 50%
And it does seem like a
is 9.
two-horse race at the
That's
moment
how many more
between the two
Lando have to win.
McLarens.
Yeah. Amazing. Like they could win 9 and 9. They both get 10 races or more. yet they're only paying Lando $4.
What did we say at the beginning of the season? That Oscar, by the end of the season, could pass Webber and Ricardo for
Yeah.
career wins.
Yeah. Probably effectively the most winningest Australian in recent time.
Yeah, like not counting Brabham or James Jones.
Yeah.
But in recent times, so career wins over Ricardo and Webber, and they've got 10 at an odds of $1.50.
Yeah.
That just shows
In
that
one season. He racked up.
everyone now is
Yeah.
expecting greatness from him.
So I thought that was interesting. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd never bet on the Formula. There's too many variables.
Yeah. It's almost one of the worst betting sports.
Oh man, it takes one little thing to go wrong, and it's done.
Yeah. Corner one.
Exactly. It's
Corner one,
it's-
everything can just fall apart right then.
Yeah.
You can be 10 seconds into the race and your whole
and you're done.
Yeah.
100%. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. Oscar's essentially the favorite on everything.
Yeah, I mean, how can you have someone leading? Well, not only leading the championship, but also contending for it. You know, let's just say there's 3 drivers that are, let's say 4. All right, I'll give George that,
Wow.
but I don't see him finishing. I
You're
mean,
really
he
pulling
might
that
be able to.
bandwagon by yourself.
He might be able to pip 3rd. Red Bull seem to be on a downward trend. Almost every race that Red Bull hit seems to be a backward step rather than a forward step.
Yeah,
They
they're
seem to
really
be-
peaks and valleys
Yeah.
is their season so far.
Whereas like Mercedes consistently there.
Yeah. Just
You know.
don't have that. It could be the driver. We've established Max as one of one. But yeah, they haven't had that big pace
No.
to get ahead of McLaren. They're
No.
clearly the second quickest car.
Or someone on Max's level of talent
Yeah,
to kind of really push the abilities of the car to
Yeah.
the max. So
exactly right.
okay, so then after that you got Pierre in number 9, which is kind of not here nor there.
Yeah.
Midfield, who gives a fuck really?
Yeah.
Esteban Ocon
Again.
is way too high.
You reckon?
Yeah, I mean, again, we want to talk about it in the context of this season.
Well, again, yeah. I mean, I'll put Albon. Albon should be ahead. Even
Well, wouldn't you have Albon? You'd have ahead. You'd probably even think Yuki's ahead.
Yuki's a strange one.
He's a bit of a strange one. Like, obviously, he's in a Red Bull now. He's
I
not in
rated
a
him
racing
higher.
Bull.
And it's probably not, breaking news based on how that Red Bull's proven to be a handful, but he's become a little bit irrelevant since taking that Red Bull seat.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
He's gone from like outperforming, proving he deserves that seat to kind of, okay. He's, just
but only that,
doesn't
no
have the pace.
one's really even talking about him.
Yeah.
It's almost like there's a bit of a protective shield around him, just to
It could be not just him, it could be the team. Protect the team from.
they're not going to make another driver change. They can't go back.
Don't put more scrutiny on that. Just let it all be.
So even if he gets knocked out in say Q2 and he doesn't make Q3, no one seems to be talking about it. Whereas like poor old Lawson, microscope on everything that he did.
Yeah.
Practice sessions, qualifying. He only had the 2 races. It was always so much noise around him. But Yuki, no noise.
No.
So
No. It could just be, again, they just need to settle in.
Yeah.
Something
So-
Jack Doohan have got the chance to do.
No. So Liam Lawson takes out the 14th spot. So he's 1 position behind Yuki. So even that's a bit of a lull. And then ahead of Lance Stroll, which is probably not right as much as Lance Stroll is potentially the worst driver on the grid.
Again, they've marked like Stroll has way more experience on according to this, like 30 points more experience.
Yeah.
More racecraft, which is questionable. They should be level.
Very
They're as
questionable.
shit as each other.
Yeah.
Awareness, pretty level. Pace, they've dropped Lance, 10 points behind Lawson on pace,
Yeah.
which Lawson doesn't strike me as a quick driver. He hasn't yet.
No,
and
but again-
Stroll's got the record, as you like to attend to,
For
of the
fastest
most
laps. Or
Yeah,
Yeah.
most Grand Prix that are fastest lap and
Yeah.
most Q1 exits.
exits. Yeah.
So he's got some pretty, slow records. But you give Lawson 10 years, and I reckon he'd be close.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, in the context of this year, like Lance has scored more points. We've seen
That was
Lawson.
some early season luck as well.
Yeah, he did benefit from some luck. But overall, from the first 6 races standpoint, to have Stroll behind Lawson doesn't make any sense.
No.
Like, as much as I don't really like or care about either of these drivers, and the fact that we're talking about him is dull and boring. I mean,
Yeah.
like Lawson's racking up penalties. That's all
Yeah.
he's doing at the moment.
Like his racecraft should be plummeting and
Yeah.
awareness together.
Yeah.
Plummeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think Hadjar, Antonelli definitely seem out of place.
Yeah, Antonelli, I think he's been screwed the hardest in comparison to where he is in the championship standings right now and what he's been doing in the first 6 races to where EA thinks he's rated as a driver. Makes no sense.
Taking it to the 4th best driver on the grid according to this as well.
Yeah.
Mind you. I think that's the biggest telling point.
Yeah, 100%. And then Ijak Hadjar is probably the second most shafted,
Yeah.
followed by Piastri. Piastri is shafted for sure.
Yeah. I mean, he showed them. Yeah. But I mean, as Isaac in last, but he's also 4 points off second last.
Yeah.
Like they've plummeted him. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Like there's effectively 4 points between 19th all the way up to, Lance and 15th. Like it's that close. But then Isaac's just been dipped right off the back of the pack. Just
Which is like even more hilarious when you think about Lawson being dropped from the Red
Yeah.
Bull, Yuki being bumped up, and then struggling in the Red Bull
but Isaac
just
pretty
as
much being better than Liam.
I'd almost say better than both, like more
Yeah.
consistent and more reliable than both.
Yeah.
And then think about Jack Doohan, who's lost his seat. He's not even on the grid anymore, and he's listed at 18th above both Antonelli and Hadjar.
Yeah.
So that one caught them out. They definitely did not see that coming.
They should have. He wasn't given a chance. As far as the bottom goes, like Jack, Gabe, even Ollie. Like Ollie's he's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Could probably get off the bottom, but I think the bottom 5 should definitely be Lawson, Stroll, Gabe, Jack, and you're probably looking at
Hulkenberg.
Hulkenberg or probably Ocon. They're probably the 2 that should be battling it out for that 5th last spot.
Yeah.
Again, Hulkenberg's probably just his experience pulling him up there, and probably his awareness. Again, you don't really hear about him causing too much trouble.
No.
If K-Mag was in the grid, he'd have a lot. His awareness would be right down from.
The only driver that's older than him would be Lewis and Alonso, right? So he would be the 3rd most experienced driver.
Yeah.
I mean, we've spoken about it before. How he even still has a seat.
Yeah. Safe pair of hands, I think, is what you're looking at. Not going to stir shit. Not going to damage the car.
No.
You're not going to be in and out of the steward's room. Just a safe pair of hands. Which a team like Sauber, they're in a median period of just getting by until the next point.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to do is throw money away for no result.
Yeah.
So at least he's that, while they can try and develop Gabe. I think that's seems to clearly be their
Can he
their
develop
game
Gabe? Because
not him. He can't. No. The team, however, can try.
yeah,
It'd be the blind leading the blind if they're getting Hulk to develop Gabe.
they really made a mess of this thing. So I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm still gonna buy it. I'm still gonna play it. The F1 game is one of the few racing games that actually capture the speed, the
quick and it's
feeling of
agile.
speed. Yeah, in the car in the game. So you play other games, you don't get that same sense of frantic pace. When you play these F1 games, I think they've done a good job at capturing how it would feel. In terms of the responsiveness, speeding up, slowing down.
Yeah.
I'm always astounded when you hit the brakes at like the 100-meter board or
It pulls up.
it pulls up and you think, how does it do that?
Yeah.
So they've done a good job there for sure.
Well, I think I might get it. Like I got the last couple.
You might get it. Yeah.
Well, like you said, like I do other forms of racing.
First of all, you're broke as fuck. So how are you going to afford this game?
We'll see. I'll try. All right. But the thing that really intrigued me is they've got reverse tracks now, which is just a fun little bit.
We were watching some footage before, and it freshens it up a little bit.
Just something different to do.
Some of them almost felt like they flowed better.
Yeah.
And you were saying it was possibly to do with the way the corners are made.
Yeah. Well, you're designing a racetrack, you probably want a straighter exit. So maybe because they're all designed obviously on paper for what would be ideal racing, good racing, fast laps. Potentially a slower entry and then just like a straight gun exit.
Yeah.
So you do it in reverse, you're getting a nice straight braking with a nice flowing exit now. And they all seem to trend that way.
So it makes you wonder, like, why don't they do something like that where every second year they flip it, they reverse the track? I mean, I understand the drivers are going to learn the layouts and whatever,
It's not
but
even that. That'd be awesome. But I think it's more to do with, like, every track is graded and has to meet FIA.
blah blah blah, mumbo
all
jumbo
that stuff.
bullshit.
Yeah, and it's got to do with where your runoff is, where your gravel traps are, angle of fences.
Mm.
All of a sudden you're going back, you're going the
Yeah,
other way,
but-
and all of a sudden the angles of your fences are wrong. And
You've got all the stuff there, so you can easily
I think
just
the fences might be tricky to manipulate.
Yeah, you could easily just add some stuff to make amends for a
Yeah,
reverse.
what's a few more $1 million?
But can you imagine just some of the iconic tracks like Spa? Imagine doing
Yeah.
Spa in reverse in
Hey,
real life.
I'd love it. I think it'd be great.
Mm.
Not gonna happen. But-
No, it will never happen. But
Be awesome, wouldn't it?
yeah.
But and
the
I
fact
think
that the
that's-
game even allowed it,
Yeah, well, it
it's-
almost
it's a
seems
surprise.
it almost feels like a mockery. Like, I'm surprised Formula One allowed it.
Mm.
Like, to get some of the iconic tracks, the heritage tracks, the iconic tracks like Spa, Monaco. I don't know if they all can go backwards, but surely.
Yeah.
It feels like a mockery to be like, yeah, whatever, take it backwards.
well, look, they got to do something right. These games, they've been around for a long time. They fall into the same issues that the NBA has, FIFA, or whatever the fuck that's called now. The NFL, Madden games, they're the same game.
Yeah.
Year in, year out, they're the same game. The graphics slightly get tweaked and improved. It looks prettier. Sure,
Yeah, you always
maybe
wonder,
it
can it
feels
get better? It always seems to get better.
But it
Graphics
all,
and-
most for the most part, it always feels like the same game,
Yeah.
right? So throwing those little gems in, reverse tracks, I think just helps freshen up. Just something a little bit different. So
Yeah, I think there was kind of, you're right. Like, you get the F1 24 game.
Yeah.
You have 26 tracks, I suppose, and that's all you get. You get the one sort of, you get the teams, the drivers, the tracks, and that's all you've got.
Yeah.
So at least now going reverse, you do basically open up 26 more tracks effectively.
Well,
I mean,
that's a new like braking zones and apexes to learn.
exactly right.
Where to pass.
Yeah. I mean, the old games, they were really good. Some of the old games had old Formula One cars, old tracks that weren't on the calendar, and they'd put them in. You could race the old track in the old car as an old driver. Awesome. Like, I don't know why they kind of got rid of that,
Yeah.
but I think that was awesome. I loved that when I was a kid playing those games. Great.
Yeah. I think that's something that should always be a part of the game. Iconic tracks, iconic cars, iconic races.
Yeah.
And have it tuned to how the cars would have felt then as well, so you can really get a little bit more
different
insight.
feeling than the modern Formula One car.
Yeah.
The other thing is, for this new game, they've introduced LiDAR scanning all the tracks. So
Which is 'cause
laser.
I'm not a nerd.
Yeah,
so
me either. You know that.
Well,
it doesn't take much to do a bit
Well,
of research.
nerd it up.
Just laser scanning from a certain height, so all the gradients and changes of angles of the road, and it's all accurate and imprinted, so it's a scanned track now.
So they're trying to be iRacing.
Yeah, and a cheaper version.
Yeah.
I'd hope, because iRacing takes fucking years to get tracks scanned and implemented, but
Yeah.
they seem to have done this quite quick.
Yeah.
On 26 tracks around the world.
Mm-hmm.
But it just adds a bit more realism, because all of a sudden, instead of a track that's, I don't know, built computer generated, built not actually scanned, you'll get the obvious banking and the obvious camber changes, but the small bumps in the braking zones, all that sort of stuff that you don't get without a laser scan track.
Yeah.
It'll make the game feel completely different, a bit more accurate, funner.
So in terms of racing games, where does F1 sit for you?
In terms of racing games.
Yeah. Not all games, because there's way better games than this.
Yeah,
but
100%.
but
Look,
racing games specifically.
Okay. Well, I do iRacing in my spare time. That's probably the pinnacle for me. It's very good.
Yep.
Graphics are lacking, but that's not their strong suit.
It's more about the technicality of
Yeah.
it, isn't it? Yeah.
So I think if I'm looking at, just sit down on the couch and just have some fun,
Mm-hmm.
Forza's pretty good.
Forza's
I've
you
always
go
liked
to?
a bit of Forza.
Yeah.
Bit of fun out in the streets.
Yeah.
Like not Motorsport, the other one, Horizon.
Yeah.
Just drift around the streets. I mean, if you can call Grand Theft Auto a car game, then that might pick it. But
Well, you can definitely spend hours just driving around.
Yeah. F1 games, I think, and like I said, I've been playing since like the 2010 one come out. So like, this is a big part of my
Well-
younger years, and I used to just grind it. Hey,
Well-
I was happy to sit in front of the couch
Yeah, like I was always more into shooters,
Mm.
and like story games.
Yeah.
Racing games I found would get boring quick for me.
Yeah.
But I will say, Gran Turismo was up there for me. Forza in and out. I kind of go on and off with Forza. It's a bit more arcadey, which
Yeah.
does make it
That's what I mean.
sink
To
into
just
the
sit
couch.
down and just don't have to stress about it.
Turn off the brain, kill
Yeah.
some brain cells.
Yeah.
Great for that. But F1, I feel like has always proved to be a challenge for me.
Yeah.
I beat you at every game quite comfortably because you play like a bitch. But racing games, I can't get one on you, especially F1. Like
Yeah.
you make it look easy. I'm struggling to keep the car on the track,
Yeah.
and
Hey,
you're
I'm a
just
professional.
warming up your tires.
Yeah. That's
Waiting.
why this is what I do to myself. This is why we stopped playing the F1 game. I was like, man, I need a challenge. You're not challenging me. I'd rather
And that's how I feel
playing
for the
Halo.
last 10
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
playing every other game with you.
Yeah, and that's why I was like, hey, I'm kind of
My
I'm
back's
bored
sore
with
from
this.
carrying all the time.
Yeah. I said, I'm bored of this. We need to get a different game because it's just
You prefer
playing
losing.
you on a racing. I prefer a challenge,
You prefer
even
losing.
if it's losing. Yeah, which again, the shooter games normally are. I mean, every time I'd beat you on anything, it's a screenshot
Yeah.
and a memory.
Yeah.
If I ever had better stats than you on a shooter
So-
game,
So you didn't have many then.
yeah, I got like 10 in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, coming to the racing games, yeah, absolutely shit on you, that's for sure.
Yeah, something about this game is I can't figure it out. I don't know what it is. I don't know if like it's my braking is off. I can't hit or
Yeah,
read
and you got
apexes
the
right.
assist as well.
Oh yeah, I have to have pretty much all the assists on. Like
Yeah.
last year, I sunk quite a bit of time into F124. Quite enjoyed it. I thought the career was decent enough. We played the co-op for a little bit, so we gave
Yeah.
it a good run.
We did a season and a half.
Yeah, yep. So
That's
off the back of that, I'm happy to move onto F125 and kind of
Hmm.
keep what I sort of learned from 24 and then just sort of reapply it to 25.
I think just seeing that they've made some actual changes year on year is exciting.
Mm.
I think when EA got the game and made the changes, I don't reckon you probably could have picked too many changes over those next sort of 3-4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get new tracks, that's cool, whatever. But actually seeing they've made real changes,
Yeah.
with the scanning of the track and the introduction of the F1 movie team, the Apex GP team that they've brought into it.
Sunny Haze.
That's kind of fun, I guess.
Yeah.
But that at least there's a change. There's actually, it's not like the release of the new iPhone where it's the
Mm.
fucking same thing every time and
Yeah.
you just got to have it for whatever reason. Like it's an actual.
Not far off that, but yeah.
No, but that's what I'm saying. This is the first time there's actual changing, which
Yeah.
is why I'm like, because like when I bought F1 24 is because you were hitting me up.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, all right, yeah, we'll get into that. But normally I'll only buy it like 23, 22. I'm not buying it on release day. I'm kind of like, see some footage, scratch the itch for a little while,
Mm.
Because iRacing, that's a bugger to set up. I got to sit in the sim, got
yeah.
to turn the computer on,
Yeah.
got to find a
The whole
session.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not exactly pressing the button on your and sinking it to the couch and getting into it.
Yeah.
So, a bit of a pastime, but
Mhm.
this actually looks like it'd be a bit of fun.
Yeah, well, I grinded through F124. I quite enjoyed it. I
Mm.
then switched up to Gran Turismo and grinded that for a while.
Yep.
And the race mechanics were completely different. So
Yeah.
when I went back to F1 to kind of continue on with my career for a little bit there, I already lost
Yeah.
so much of my racing craft.
Yeah.
Just from changing games because again, like F1 feels balls to the wall.
Yeah,
It's
relentless.
it's relentless. You probably played a bit differently where you can feel a bit more relaxed or you can switch off a little bit more at times, but I feel like I'm focused in
Mm.
the whole time trying to figure this fucking thing out. So
Well, I wonder if the other, because you're a money bags, you've
Mm.
got Xbox and you've got PlayStation, you've got everything you could ever want.
hey, I love the game.
I found, because, I'd come over and play a bit of Gran Turismo with you. I found the PlayStation controls were horrible
Oh, they're shocking.
for car racing specifically.
Yeah.
Like the toggle, I struggled to get my thumb onto the, I got big hands,
Mm.
big man hands.
Yeah.
I struggled to,
You're a big boy everywhere.
exactly, yeah, that's right. Everywhere, you know it. I struggled with that toggle.
Yeah.
And I found that, like, the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that as well, like, going from console to console, especially where you might not be so used to it.
I don't know if it's console to console. I mean, if you're iRacing week in, week out, and you've been doing that for a while now, obviously you're on pedals and
Yeah.
and steering wheels and all that sort of
Yeah,
shit. So
yeah.
then going back to a controller is
Just a
going to feel
controller.
super foreign.
Yeah. It kind of sucks.
Does make me
Took a
wonder
lot
if
of
I
energy.
should invest into it. But a game like this, I don't want to be sitting upright and and
Yeah.
you know
And that's
sweating my ringer off
exactly
playing.
right. Yeah, and a lot of
Um,
people play it that way. A lot of people play the F1 game with the sim.
Oh yeah,
Whereas for me, I feel like the F1 game is more of a, even though it's less arcade and it is more sim based for a console game.
it's
I
a
do
different
find
beast to
it.
iRacing.
Yeah, I do find it if I want to do some racing, just kick back and relax and not have to worry about anything. Like
Yeah.
it's good for that.
So yeah, you're gonna get it.
I reckon I'll get it.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, if we're
I'll
going to
get
do the co-op campaign, I'll get it.
Yeah.
That makes it worth
All
it.
right, we'll run it. So, in terms of the driver rankings to where they're at the season, let's just cover off the season for a little bit. So, do you feel like Max is going to stay in the top 3
Yeah, I think he's pretty safe there.
in the championship?
I think he's pretty safe
battle?
there. Yep. I think he's proved time and time again he can outdrive the car. So if the Red Bull car does continue to lose pace, I think he'll definitely be within contention. I think come into the last
Wait, for
for third.
Yeah, okay.
for third.
Yeah.
Not
Just clarifying.
not punching any higher than that.
Yeah.
I think if Mercedes are the second quickest car and they stay consistent, I think Max can outdrive his car enough to stay in the hunt for third. Not that he gives a fuck, right?
Do you see him snagging any more wins?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do feel like he take Monaco.
Yeah, okay, Monaco.
I
Money's on him for Monaco.
I do think he'll take Monaco. We sort of discussed it the other day, but
Yeah.
I think it is a case of two things. He's got quality base, clear as day, and he's got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Like the McLarens might not want to write their car off in quali.
So they might not
It might be
push as
just a
hard
touch
as well.
on the safe side. I'm sure they'll be still max out there, you know. But we've seen Leclerc get pole and then crash the car and then not take a gearbox to avoid starting 10th and then
Only to then have to
To
have
then-
needed a new gearbox.
and not even start the race. So
Yeah.
there might be a little bit of like, all right, like we don't need this win if we're pushing that hard in quali.
Yeah.
Max won't have that. But then he's also pretty
So you reckon one win, most likely Monaco?
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets others in the future. There's still going to be tracks that suit them.
Yep.
They seem to be pretty quick in a straight line.
Mhm.
So you got a lot of tracks out there. Monza, very power heavy.
Yeah.
So there's still a few tracks.
Austria.
I think, yeah. Well, yeah. I think there's a few tracks. He might still pick up, you know, maybe 3 or 4 wins.
Wow, you reckon possibly 3 to 4
Yeah.
wins? Okay.
And again, circumstances as well. You always give one to circumstances. I mean, last year, how many drivers won races, and it was because of
Yeah.
Max and Lando taking each other out in Austria.
Yeah.
And then whoever won that race, there's your free ticket.
Okay, so then Lando, always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Yeah, even on the driver rankings.
Yeah. Do you think that he's going to find a way to take the fight more to Oscar? Do you think Oscar's really got his ticket now?
I think Oscar's, he's squished his nuts early. I think he's
Yeah.
gonna. Yeah, I think he'll hold him there now. I think Oscar has proven to not succumb to pressure at
So
all.
if, as the season goes on and Piastri continues to rack up these wins and Lando keeps finding ways to ruin his own race weekends, do you think there's a point where McLaren, like at what point did McLaren kind of throw all of their weight? I mean, I know at the moment they don't really have anything to lose because there is really no challenge outside of each other.
Yeah.
But do you think there is a point where McLaren, have to kind of acknowledge Piastri as the stronger driver,
Not at
and
this
then whatever the benefits might come with that?
Not at this point. I think they'll stay equal number one. There's no point backing one over the other. Like if they come mid-season and they're within a race win still, I don't think you can do it.
Yeah.
And especially if they've cleared out 40 points over
Well, they're already
third.
constructors. They're already off
Yeah,
and running.
not even they're gonna win that. Bar catastrophe.
Yeah.
Which we've seen McLaren have catastrophe before, getting excluded from the constructors championship.
Yeah.
A la 07.
Yeah.
Hopefully there's no cheating and conspiracies going on this year. But
Yeah. Well,
I think they've got that sewn up. So I don't think they'd back a driver. And then if the gap naturally spreads 30, 40 points between the two, they don't have to step in anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't see it happening. The only way it does is if they do crash into each other once, twice, and all of a sudden they've got cars on their toes in the championship. Then they might go, all right, we got to settle this down.
Yeah.
Pick a driver.
okay.
But hopefully we don't see it come to that.
All right. Charles is having a bit of a season to forget. not really racking up podiums like they were last year.
No, 6 races in, they've got one as a team. So
Yeah, like that's that's brutal.
Yeah.
I don't see anything changing. Like such a drop off on form compared to last year, almost winning the constructors, like literally just missing out on it.
Yeah.
Probably if 1 or 2 races went slightly different, they win. To now just being out of the picture entirely.
Yeah, it's quite
Again,
a step back.
Paying all that money to Lewis to come over as well, and we're seeing that pretty much every driver that's in a car, like a new car this year, is struggling, and he's not exempt from that. You can give him a little bit of leeway there, but it almost at this stage does feel like Ferrari made a mistake by letting Carlos go, and maybe not acknowledging that what they had was quite a good thing and a good pairing, and they were working together, and the team was in a good spot.
Yeah,
the element of Hamilton coming into Ferrari now,
it's disrupted things.
It's throwing everything out of whack. You can hear all the shit going on the radio.
Yeah,
they're making classic stupid Ferrari mistakes.
You got to wonder as well, like the R&D of the cars, they obviously heavily take into consideration what the drivers have to say, their input on the car. Maybe his direction is what he's giving them as far as what he wants to see from the car is a polar opposite of Leclerc, and it kind of just muddies the waters for him.
Maybe he's trying to get Ferrari to build him another Mercedes. But Ferrari are like, we can't build shit this good. Are you kidding me? That's out of our wheelhouse.
We got a horse on the front.
Come on. You came to Ferrari, bro.
Yeah. Lower your expectations.
Yeah, have you not seen our badge?
Yeah. No 3-pointed star.
All right. Russell's having a good season.
Yeah. I agree.
He's probably gonna. He's right in the right spot that he could easily get a couple wins this season. If we do see a little entanglement between,
he's
the
probably
two McLarens
best
and Max.
suited to benefit from disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what his whole story this season has been: does nothing and secures a podium.
Yeah.
So it just maybe to his bad luck, you could say, no one's really taking each other out yet, and him just being kind of the driver there to now collect the
that's what's amazing.
place.
Is the McLarens haven't had to battle wheel to wheel yet.
Not against each other, not really. They've always sort of had a buffer somehow. But as we saw in Miami, both of them had to go dual Verstappen.
Yeah,
and we know that does tend to end not so well, more often than not.
Yeah.
Both of them came out alive, and Oscar even said he knows how to race Max. He knew that he was going to be, hard.
That's why his racecraft's high. It's one thing we got right.
Yeah. So, a circumstance like that, Piastri maybe not as patient or level-headed, hits Max. Both of them are taken out of the equation. Lando gifted a win. Who's there second? Probably George,
Yeah.
So
that's the thing. I think he'll pick up. Like, he doesn't seem to have, again, we've talked about, Max. He doesn't have that ability to really outperform the car. He has done it. I mean, I'll give him credit, right? Last season, I think he had a pole where he had no purple sectors. Like, that's effectively the best example of maximizing what you have. He doesn't have the quickest car in any sector, but put his whole lap together brilliantly, right? So I guess on occasion, he could, but it's not something consistently in his bag. So he might get a race just based on strange circumstances, whether it's a wet quali and he gets a pole, and then we know that these things are hard to pass. So, but then and then I would say he might get 2, to be honest. One with pace and weird situations, and potentially one with McLaren's eventually racing wheel to wheel and having some kind of issue,
and ending in tears.
And not even necessarily a crash, but maybe like a penalty, and the other one's disadvantaged, and then one gets a penalty, and you get free. And because he's not far behind, right? And I know he finished 30 seconds behind in the last race, but besides that, like, the racing between the top sort of 10 has been pretty close. Enough to benefit from those types of issues.
I mean, which naturally does happen on any era in the final season of the year. Everyone's kind of
everyone's really closed up, learnt the regs, got them to a T.
Okay, so as we mentioned, Carlos being listed as the 5th best driver
best
is
Formula 1 driver.
Is hilarious, above Hamilton and Piastri. Probably needed to change that. As I think I said, probably more in like that 9th or 10th spot. With that being said, Williams having a little bit of success this season, I don't think anyone's disappointed to see that.
No,
I think we're all kind of cheering for them. It's nice to see an OG team they're not fighting for wins. They're not even really fighting for podiums,
No.
but they are getting points and they're taking it to, some big names. Ferrari are probably the ones
Yeah.
that are really caught up with him at the moment.
That's the thing. Like Williams are probably the 5th best team now, and Ferrari are not.
No.
On their weekend,
No.
Williams are the 4th best team.
Well, and they're trending up, right?
Yeah.
And Ferrari just look lost and stupid, and they can't get their shit together. So,
Yeah. I mean, we're about to move into more of the business end.
Yeah.
Now that all these tracks
and-
that are so fucking far away from England are
Yeah.
kind of mostly out the way, we'll now see a bigger push with development.
well, we go through Europe, which is European sport, so the drivers are probably a bit more familiar with the tracks overall.
Yeah.
There's not going to be as much travel time or crazy time differences, time zone changes.
Yeah.
So every driver is going to be a bit more probably on their game as well.
Yeah.
So this is probably my favorite part of the season.
Yeah.
The
It
first,
really
the opening
gets
part of the
busy.
season, it's still taking shape. You don't really know
Yeah.
what things are looking like.
Bit of an unknown.
Yeah.
I mean, if Australia wasn't round 1, Oscar wins Australia.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah.
I'm confident in saying that. And I've said that I think that's the problem with Australia being round 1
Mm.
is you don't know what you're walking into. Like
Yeah,
a
you're
lot of
going
drivers can win on
completely
luck
cold.
or something strange happening because everyone's not around it.
Yeah.
Out. Whereas now, if Australia's next round, I'm putting money on he's winning that fucker.
Yeah.
know.
Okay. Fernando, don't really need to talk about him. He's rated too high, as we mentioned. Oscar's looking more and more like the best driver on the grid as far as his package with him in the car. He's getting the most out of the car. He's
Have you seen
doing.
his package?
And have you?
No, haven't.
No.
Hasn't leaked it yet.
Well, if you come
The,
across it,
the
just
OP
send it out.
package hasn't come out.
Yeah, I think it's just the fact that we could be witnessing the first Australian championship in our lifetimes.
45 years, yeah.
Yeah, is really exciting stuff. It makes these off weekends even longer now.
Yeah.
There was many off weekends where I was happy not to watch F1 and stay up and
Haven't we picked
watch
a prime
Ricardo
time?
come 12th.
Haven't we picked a prime time to start this podcast?
Yeah, it's almost like it was planned, right?
I mean, that's the thing. If something, God forbid, something bad happens this year
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't win it,
Yeah.
he's here.
Yeah. The only other driver I probably want to mention, and maybe we finish up on, is Jack Doohan.
Yep.
So obviously he's been let go, and we might not see him. There's talks that he could be on a rotation. So Colapinto could be coming in for a 5-race rotation.
Look, if that's the case, that's because how crashy he was last year.
Yeah. Okay.
I reckon if that's, I haven't heard that, but if that's
As
sort
in
of what,
Colapinto, they're maybe a bit
Colapinto, yeah.
worried about his.
it's probably a case of let's just leak this now in case we make ourselves look like fools.
Mm.
Because if he comes in and rips his car up,
Well,
then
they
we've got
already
a-
look like fools, really.
Absolutely. They never gave him a shot. That's what really pisses me off. Like,
Mm.
you give the guy a 6-race contract straight away. Like, that's saying you perform, and by the way, we're giving you like the worst car on the grid.
Yeah.
And you better perform better than your teammate who's, what's his experience level here? 82. So he's got, I think actually to look up 2017, he started. So
Yeah,
he's
okay.
got 8 years
Yeah.
in the sport.
So, yeah.
So come
A
up against your
good run.
teammate who's won a race in Formula One.
Mm.
He's got 8 years in the sport. He's been in this team for two or 3 years, however long.
Yeah.
Decent steerer. Go up against him. You have 6 races, or you're out.
Yeah.
Like, what are you meant to do?
Doesn't even make any sense, does it?
Yeah. And by the way, you haven't driven in half these tracks
Well,
because Formula 2 doesn't normally come on these ventures.
there's so much, like the F1 rumor mill is just shocking. You don't know what to believe. You don't know what's genuine. You don't know what's, what's real, what's not, what's fake. Lots of things I've heard over the last few days, like, his dad had to pay $10 million
Which is
for him
not
to be in that seat.
a shocking thing to hear if that's the case.
Not a shocking thing, but at the same time, you're paying someone $10 million and all you get is 6 races.
Yeah.
Like, how is that not all right, you got a season to figure it out. Good
Yeah.
luck, go. It's 6 races. I mean, Lawson had 2, which is just a joke. That just shouldn't be in the sport. But 6, a quarter of the season, is not much better. So, does
And then
feel a
he's
bit hard
out,
done by.
and we've seen he's not coming back. If he's out and they don't rotate him in, like Mick Schumacher didn't get another chance. They dropped him as soon as they could.
Mm.
He hasn't got an eye back in.
No. No, I mean, especially like Flavio seems to be very favourable towards Colapinto as well. You know, as soon as that change happened where Ollie Oakes, you know, leaves due to his brother being shady and doing shady,
Yeah.
possibly drug type stuff, whatever the hell's going on there, I'm sure that's going to come out.
The Russians.
Oh, is it maybe
It's
like money
he
laundering,
bought the
is it?
team.
Mm.
It is, yeah. It's something to do with the Mazepins and Russians,
Okay.
and because that was like the Mazepin team.
Yeah.
The Formula 2 team was
So they're like
the Mazepins.
funneling money. Through.
Yeah, and then they sold it when all that sort of stuff went down,
Yeah.
and then that's what they've sort of figured out is that it seems to be money laundering.
Mm.
Like he's laundering money to the Mazepins through that team.
Yeah, right.
Something like
I'm watching this because it's interesting.
shady as fuck,
Whenever,
right?
yeah, whenever you see something like such a big blemish like this for F1, you know, ooh,
It's pretty big.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gonna be spicy. But interesting that as soon as he hands in his resignation or forced to quit, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
Flavio, who has a lifetime ban, all of a sudden is interimly running Alpine,
Isn't it funny?
and the first thing that comes out is Jack's gone.
Well, apparently Flavio, I don't know if he's an official manager, but he had a big hand in getting Jack in the team.
Right.
And then he also had a big hand in getting Franco in the team.
So
it
maybe
really
he's chasing paychecks.
doesn't make sense, but so I think his lifetime ban got cleared for starters. But isn't it funny that he comes in as an advisor this year?
Yeah.
And just like that, he's crafty. He's managed to wiggle his way to the top of the snake.
Well, that's what I mean. We'd have to look into it, but is he limited to what his role can be? And now he's using creative titles
Yeah.
and, you know, strategic firings and
Yeah.
whatever. Who knows? Maybe he knew what Ollie Oakes was doing.
He snitched.
And yeah, and he just alerted someone, the right person.
Yeah.
Bang, he's out of the way. I'm the last man standing. I'm
Yeah.
going to have to run the team.
You might be onto
Otherwise,
something.
you know.
You might have just cracked this
Yeah,
wide open.
well,
He
we
planted the
know-
millions.
We know he does anything to
Yeah.
win, and he's shady, and he's not afraid to cross lines or barriers. If he got a whiff of Ollie Oakes, you know, maybe doing something illegal here, it's in his best interest to leak that shit and just be like, look, guys, what you really need is someone trustworthy to
Who's never done anything wrong.
is a
Crashgate.
staple.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
It's disappointing because I actually like Flavio as a character. I think he's
he's a character.
exactly
I
he's
mean-
a character of the sport. He's got some like touch and go history, but
Is that what you
it's-
hope to look like when you're 60?
He's a bit rough. He's a bit rough. 60.
when
he
you
looks
see-
like he's 80.
Well, when you see photos of him in the Schumacher days, you
Yeah.
almost can't believe it's the same person.
Yeah.
You're like, what drugs did you smoke that you went from that to this?
He's years away from the sport rough, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah.
But I really like him as a character, and good for the sport as a story.
Yeah.
Like his story is,
Ah,
is
he's
fantastic.
Definitely
right?
one of the more interesting ones.
But it's disappointing that I feel like he must have had a hand in this whole doing saga. And again, I just don't feel like he was given a chance. I mean, again, we've said 100 times, but you look at the drivers on the grid and you're like, why does
Why are certain
Lawson
drivers still
get-
there?
this is his third year at essentially just getting another shot.
Yeah.
Just getting another shot. Just getting another shot. And I know there's paid drivers, but it just doesn't make sense as
No.
to why you just.
I think what the FIA need to do, and this is just an opinion, is implement. You can't make a driver change mid-season. I think whatever drivers
There's
you
so
go
many
in,
caveats though. They'd be like, oh, injury or
yeah, unless
contract clauses.
of course, unless something prevents you from being
Yeah.
able to actually race. Fuck contracts, all that sort of shit. I think if you're backing two dudes to race for you, you back them till the end of the season.
It'd be
because-
good. There's just too much money in it to have that kind of.
They don't need more
Lockdown.
money. Maybe some of the lower teams, but they're not getting a Verstappen, or they're not getting
No.
they're not getting I don't know, any driver that's potentially worth losing due to lack of performance or whatever. But I think how can you expect talent to be developed when they're not nurtured enough?
Yeah.
Like, you got one driver who was demoted after 2 races, and now you got another driver who's been kicked out of the team after 6 races. And as you mentioned, they're probably racetracks that they've never raced before.
Yeah. And you look at Australia. Yeah, he had the accident. Not the only one. A lot of drivers crashed.
You got to get around the car. You got to obviously have your own race style, which
Yeah.
might not fit the car. It might be fitting the other driver better, and you got to
Yeah.
sort of adapt to that. You got to learn the tracks, and you got to adapt to those pretty goddamn quick because
Yep.
you're not out there for weeks. You
Yeah.
literally have 3 practice sessions on a non-sprint weekend.
That's the thing. There's been 2 sprints as well.
Yeah, already.
Already.
Yeah, so you're leaving less time kind of developing the car how you want it, setup-wise. Tough gig, man. So
And you're given 6 from the start.
nobody
you're
wants
under
to
pressure.
see a rotation of drivers in and out. Like
No.
I mentioned last week, the sport feels like it doesn't have any icons anymore, and it's probably because of the age that we live in with information and social media, that they don't feel like these mysterious, untouchable people now.
Yeah.
They just seem like everyday dudes that are doing the latest TikTok trends on fucking whatever. You know, that's all you see now from these guys. And you can see that some drivers are reluctant to do it, but they're forced to. They clearly, it must be a part of their contract to help
To be
push the
approachable
brand.
at least. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I get, the sport is only as successful as the fans who are watching it. But if you're having drivers just rotate in and out of seats multiple times, that again, I think that just, it doesn't allow for drivers to be developed, personalities to come out, you know, have a bit more narratives around the sport. You're having guys come in. Like, how many drivers have you forgotten about who have left the sport over the last 4 years?
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
so
I mean, I was going to say, like Nick DeVries, he came in, it was a hot shit after his, he had a replacement race and scored points for Williams or whatever. Oh, this is great, fantastic. Sign him up next year. And Toro Rosso or whatever, RB, dump him mid-season again. And for Ricardo, which is, fantastic. But again, it's just what keeps happening. Like, you're not given and that RB team, it's funny, right, that they drop him for Ricardo, because the whole point of that team, and we'll get into it in a couple of weeks, is to develop talent.
yeah.
And they drop
And then
talent.
they're not even using that.
Yeah, and then they give it to Ricardo, which again was good for us, but he didn't need developing. Like, again, he just had his eye in for that Red Bull seat.
No.
So it just doesn't make any sense.
All right, let's wrap it up. Any final thoughts on F1 25?
No. I think I saw May
Just fix-
30th or something
May
that's coming
30th?
out.
Yeah,
so
okay. Just fix your driver ratings.
fix your driver ratings. Do updates. I don't understand why they don't update them.
Yeah, like rolling updates.
Yeah. I mean, they...
Why do you have to have an official announcement for these? You're
Yeah.
just asking for trouble.
Exactly right. I mean, they'll
Yeah.
update it for next year, and next year might be closer, but then they're wrong again.
If they want to hire someone who watches the sport to be a
book them in.
advisor,
Yep.
we'll do it.
I'll go truck to truck, and
We watch, we play,
we understand.
we're qualified.
Exactly right. That's all
Clearly
you
more
need,
so
right?
than someone over there.
Yeah, I mean, it's 4 categories here. Easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
All right. Next week, Imola.
Yeah. looking forward to it.
Classic. Yeah. Oscar, number 4. Is your money on him?
It's got to be. You can't
going for
vote against him at
Oscar?
this point.
All right.
You cannot.
All right. We'll see. All right. GG's.